And another week is here. Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to The Pulse. We are coming to you live from our studios in Kokomleme on your digital terrestrial TV, because we are free to air this afternoon on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 144. Thanks for choosing us. We are Joy News, independent, fearless, and credible journalism. Coming up this afternoon, government is determined to finding a satisfactory solution to this impasse. That's according to President Akufo-Addo, who has finally broken his silence on the protracted university crisis.
This is important. Think of the recent 6-week strike action by University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTAG. Ghana government is determined to find a satisfactory solution to this impasse.
Well, there's more as we hear from UTAG government and the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission on this matter here on The Pulse. As we enter March 2022, the Institute for Energy Security, IES, is projecting another rise of prices of diesel and petrol at the pumps. Meanwhile, Ghanaians are already bearing the brunt of an earlier increase in the last pricing window as transport fares go up starting from today.
As the case, how things have increased, it affects we a lot, because we transfer our goods and materials. Maybe right now we are coming from the north, so we just came, realized the case, we just realized that things increase.
And we give you more as the minority in parliament is urging government of Ghana to scale up support for some Ghanaian students stranded at Sumy, one of the hot spots in Ukraine, as tension grows in the region.
There is still a lot of work to be done. Our embassy officials will not appear to be physically present.
My name is Blessed Sogan. The Pulse is always brought to you by Global Communities Digging Lu, affordable safe sanitation. And don't forget as well that we are streaming live on YouTube and all of our social media handles at JoyNews on TV. Also, don't forget to tweet at us with the hashtag The Pulse. My personal handle is at Blessed Sogan. Stay with us for details. And this afternoon, President Akufo-Addo has finally broken his silence on the university crisis, saying that government is determined to finding a satisfactory solution to the impasse, which will ensure that academic activities is not substantially derailed. The president is speaking at a time where the university lecturers are actually kicking against the decision of their labor union, UTAG, asking them to return to the lecture halls as negotiations continue with government. Already, the National Union of Ghana Students, NUGS, is actually asking the president to resolve the matter. We'll hear from NUGS shortly, but we also need to tell you about what the president has been saying on this matter. The president has been giving assurances that government will ensure that the academic calendar is not derailed. Listen.
Reiterate my appreciation for the relative peace prevailing on the industrial front. I know this relatively stable labor outlook did not happen by chance, but through negotiation and compromise. We therefore need to strengthen the rapport between tripartite partners for greater cooperation. This is important. Think of the recent 6-week strike action by University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTAG. Ghana government is determined to find a satisfactory solution to this impasse and ensure that the academic calendar is not substantially derailed. The best form of negotiations are those in which both parties to the dispute exhibit good faith within the context of what is affordable and equitable. I continue to hope that our dons will see this in that light and help bring the impasse to an end so that the education of our young people can resume in serenity. I assure you of government's commitment to addressing your concerns at all times, and I appeal to organized labor to give enthusiastic support and cooperation to government's program of economic recovery. Government is determined to work with all stakeholders to see us through this crisis and all the challenges.
Well, so that's President Akufo-Addo making his very first comment in a long while on the protracted UTAG strike. Let's get the reaction of the University Teachers Association of Ghana on this matter. Fortunate to have Dr. Bet Boyedi-Kusi, who's the president of the UCC chapter of UTAG. Thanks, sir, for joining us. Also on this matter is Austin Game. He is a labor dispute resolution consultant. He will be talking to us on the wider consultations happening in the Eastern region, which is being organized by the Employment and Labor Relations Ministry. But first of all, Dr. Bet Kusi, welcome to the show. So you've heard from the president. He says that make sure that you negotiate in good faith within the context of what is affordable. What does that suggest to you really as UTAG?
Yeah, thank you very much. And let me say good afternoon to your viewers and all your listeners, if any. But I want to say that yes, we commend the president for coming out to indicate that, yes, they are committed to finding an amicable resolution to this matter, which has been, confronted us for some weeks now. It's refreshing, and as the first gentleman of the land, showing that a great concern, we think it is good. Yes, it is indeed right that he says that within that context. So as a union, we have always had that at the back of our minds, that we will go into every negotiation with an open mind. And therefore, it is not out of place that when we did our own proposals, knowing that we may not get everything at a goal, we, even on our own, out of our own, propose some level of roadmaps to be able to get us to the level where we think that is acceptable for the university lecturer to be. So we are clear in our minds when we are going to the negotiation table that, yes, we may not get everything at a go, but it's also important that within the context of the discussion, looking at what is affordable, what the national kitty is able to support and all that, let's come clean. Let the employer, let the government come clean on what they think it's within the kitty, within the economic situation.
And for many, that's a signal to indicate that you're not willing to act in good faith, particularly as you know that government has a tight fiscal space. Already, we're getting indications that there's increasing resentment to the decision of your leadership to call off the strike. Tell us about that and how the voting is actually panning out, particularly at UCC where you are, and indications that we're getting from across various campuses.
Yeah, yes, you see, there's one thing acting, if you say acting in good faith, is a different thing about people expressing their displeasure about what has gone on for the past 7 weeks, where more or less we were at entrenched positions or at a stalemate. So these are two different things. UTAG has always been clear in our minds that we would want to act in good faith. The point is, I've always indicated, is always about trust. That lack of trust, that lack of transparency. And so from our minds, we were clear that if you come with something that is reasonable to us, and it might not be giving us everything that we are asking for at a go, but you show that.
I'm sorry for taking you on this point, even before you talk about the trend of voting. But the president has indicated, for instance, that if you look at the commitment of government within the COVID period, this was a period where almost all of your members were not even working, providing services for that matter. Government was still keeping you in active employment. This is the time to show good faith, as the president is indicating.
No, that's a wrong assumption. We were working. Within the COVID period, university lecturers were working. We were teaching online. That is how come we got our students to graduate. So if we were not working, then there would have been no graduation at all. Our students wouldn't have written exams. So if it's anything, the university lecturers suffered. We had to do back to back. And so we worked. That cannot be true. We were working, right? But the point, I think at the broader context is that if you look at several other economies where people were being laid off and all that, probably that did not happen in Ghana. So that is also correct. But that is not supposed to mean that the lecturer whose condition of service has worsened cannot demand that their issues are attended to.
All right.
Right. So basically, that's the context.
So let's now deal with the issue about the voting and how the procedure is going across your campuses. The indication we're getting is that there's a wide resentment. What's the implication of that vote that we're seeing and the outcome of what we are seeing right now?
Yes. So that is a typical constitutional matter for the union. The union has a constitutional provision which says that when the national leadership take a decision of such a magnitude, it must receive ratification from its members. But that same constitutional provision also makes it a provision for the fact that when the campuses are voted, then the national executive will have to come back and look at the situation, whether to call a strike again or to resume the strike again or otherwise. So basically, for me, I see it as people expressing their democratic or constitutional exercise. That is what is happening across the campuses. The indication is that across most of the campuses, they are rejecting the decision of the National Executive Committee. Of course, on my campus, election has just ended. The Electoral Commission is yet to declare, but I know for sure that roughly around 81% are saying no to the decision of NEC. So, I mean, you can't take that away from the people. That is their position.
Yes, but I was asking about the implication then.
For me, the implication is simple. It offers, I think that for the employer, it gives a good picture to what is happening. That, look, the leadership, the National Executive Committee that took that decision is at a huge risk in terms of that decision, the bold decision they made, looking at the information that was available to them, because we were coming out of about a 7-week strike where we needed to be seen to obey the courts. I mean, that's the most important thing. We need to obey the courts. I mean, we can't scandalize the courts. And so if on that premise, leadership decide that let us suspend the strike and go and negotiate, and you have the masses disagreeing with them, then it means that the employer should be wary and then also act timeously.
So yeah, but it's not as though this is a directive from leadership or the executives of UTAG. This is a court order. You're enjoined by law to respect the decisions of the court. For instance, academic activities are supposed to resume today. It appears your members are not even willing to go back to the classrooms.
No, that cannot be. You see, the court order was one of them. Remember that we did not even resume the strike immediately after the court order. I mean, our lawyer, our legal team had filed for setting aside the decision. So when we took that decision to call up the strike, yes, the court order was one of them, but there were several other factors. And also thinking about our students and the general appeals that were coming in. So there were multiple factors. But I want to say that I don't think there is any campus that has resisted going to, apart from one campus, but I have just seen a release from that same campus indicating that they have rescinded their decision and they are going to go back to the lecture room. My campus, for instance, today, lectures are ongoing, and I'm sure your reporters may have come to cross-check. So,
right, but then you may withdraw that service in the coming days. That's the implication.
It is not automatic that we're going to withdraw, because the point is that the National Executive Committee is made up of human beings, very reasonable beings, and it's not the fact that the votes are going on or has happened in that way does not mean that immediately we say that we are resuming. We have to look at the prevailing circumstances. For instance, if you are negotiating and you are at the table and you know that under the same laws you cannot be on strike and negotiate, then what will be the essence to immediately resume the strike when indeed you are negotiating? So it's going to be in context.
I'll ask you about later on about what the your constitution says about such a vote and such a decision. But Austin Gami is also on with us. Thank you, sir, for spending some time with us today. The government is dealing with issues generally on the labor front, and that's not just restricted to issues relating to UTAG. The president says during the COVID, due to the strong economic basis, government was able to handle matters on the labor front appropriately. It's time for labor to also show good faith. What you're reading out of all that's happening, particularly in the context of UTAG?
How did my boot be?
Can I go on?
Mr. Game, you would have to unmute for us so we can hear you and get the points that you're trying to make, sir.
Have I unmuted?
Well, we seem to be having some challenges with Austin Game there. We'll definitely connect with him. And yes, precisely. But I need to also indicate that Kwesi Kwarteng is with the Ministry of Education. We'll get the perspective of government shortly. But Mr. Game, you were making a point about the call by the president. What's your take, sir?
Well, it's an excellent call. This is the right time to say that. But we have all got work to do, especially those who are responsible for the institutions that are to ensure that labor relations is not played out in the court domain again. The labor law is an applicable law. It's not intended in extreme cases. We go to court. That's why we created the Labor Commission. And so it's about negotiating in good faith. And good faith negotiation is not a figure of speech. It's a paradigm shift. If you don't shift, you suffer paralysis. So I want to urge all parties in this matter that it is not about changing the law, it's about applying the law. It's about acquiring the skill that is required. Even a simple thing like listening skills is missing in the lexicon of industrial relations in Ghana. People don't listen. So I think that it's up to all of us, including me, to learn to listen to your other colleague who is speaking and don't jump to conclusion.
Obviously,
positions.
Obviously, the one expected to have the bigger ear, arguably, should be government. Are you suggesting that government is not listening enough?
It's not about government, it's about employer. You can describe him as government, but when you come to employer-employee relationship, there's nothing called government. The reality here is that the employer and the workers' leaders, when they meet, the listening we are talking about here is not about what you want. We have taken out positional negotiation out of the Labour Act. Section 97 enjoins both parties to share relevant information. You can't share information and go back and take position. You know, I'm engaged in some negotiation as I speak with you, somewhere.
Right.
I can tell you it's because we share information, we have virtually reached an agreement in one way or the other. So at meeting at the table is just a matter of course. But if you take position, I will also take position. You will end up in court. And all of us will be losers. And that's precisely what's been going on.
Right. I guess the president is asking UTAG leadership to be realistic. If you look at where we are now in terms of the fiscal space, government literally is even having a hard time raising funds to run government business. This is a time where government is cutting back on public expenditure. And at the same time, UTAG is demanding more. Could this be the reason why the president is saying this should happen within the context of what's feasible?
So how do you get them? Let me give you a typical example to answer the question for you. I negotiated representing management with a certain union last week. And when we met, I requested the chief finance officer to produce information from 2018 to 2021 to show the union that they have faithfully and religiously been managing the affairs of the company prudently. When we show the information to the union said, is that the case? They sought explanation. We explained to them. At the end of the day, we negotiated for 5 hours only and signed an agreement and resolved everything. We have done the same thing today as I speak to you. That's why I'm somewhere else speaking to you now. There has been some ongoing negotiation. They've not been reaching agreement because there's not clear-cut understanding on the issues being raised. We sought clarification. Management explained. The union sought further clarification. Management explained. At the end of the day, we reached a common agreement. If you don't explain, you don't share information, nobody will appreciate where you are.
So what's that
positional negotiation is not part of Ghana again.
Right, and I guess the solution is what we're looking for now. What's that magical piece to solve this puzzle?
Well, to be honest with you, I pray that whoever is going to chair that meeting, they are very credible people who can do that, should accept the fact that they have to openly share information, openly, and be open to giving further particulars if the union demands it, and the union will also appreciate where the dynamics should be placed. At the end of the day, they will reach agreement. Otherwise, the final solution will be for them to go for either a mediated arbitration of a sort and resolve it, because the court cannot give them numbers.
Right.
The court cannot sit down and give them numbers, but a mediated person, a mediator or arbitrator, can be able to probe and come out with the numbers that will be acceptable to both parties.
Right.
Considering the difficulties government have, and considering the challenges that my friends in UTAG also have.
Austin Game is a labor consultant. We're grateful, sir, that you've been able to join us. Dr. Bet Kusi is also on with us, but fortunately we need a response from government on this matter. Plans here from the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. First, let me start off with Kwesi Kwarteng, who speaks for the Education Ministry. So the president has spoken. In fact, yesterday, students were here on the probe asking the president to resolve the matter. Now he's spoken, and the belief is that things may get worse because it appears government doesn't have the funds to give to UTAG. That would mean a deadlock again, and obviously the students would bear the brunt. How about that? Kwesi Kwarteng, we seem to be having a challenge here hearing you. Unmute for us so we can get your point there. Yes, so the point I'm making is the president has spoken. Everyone was on the lookout for that, but it appears that he's saying that should be within the context of what's feasible. For many, given the hard times in which we find ourselves, government is simply making another excuse again on this matter. That may end up in another deadlock. Is that a fair suggestion?
Are you referring to the UTAG government negotiation?
Precisely, sir. The president has spoken.
Hello.
Yes, Kwesi Kwarteng, if you're with me.
The ministry is concerned.
Right.
Yes, negotiation.
Yes, please go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, please go ahead and make the point. Yes.
I'm saying that so far as the Ministry of Education is concerned, we've actually met, that is the parties involved negotiations. The last time we met, it was at the behest of the Minister for Employment and Labor Relations, where we had representatives as usual from all the negotiations. And so far as we are concerned, we've not really gone into the details of the negotiations. What happened on that very day was about parties bringing out their issues. And so you had UTAG bringing out their issues, government also bringing out their issues. At the end of the day, it's about parties coming out with what relevant issues that we are to resolve. After those issues were brought out, the meeting was postponed to, I think that is Wednesday, yes, coming Wednesday. So I don't really get this whole point about government is not really committed about doing A, B, or C. I really don't get it.
Just before Wednesday, I'm sure that you've been monitoring what's happening across the various university campuses. Indications we are getting is that the various local unions are kicking against the suspension of the strike. Are you worried about this as government?
I think it's for us, it's largely it's a concern. Is a concern within the larger context as the fact that they want to use every means to let their voices or their concerns be heard. So that is why they want opposition to the decision of NEC. But like, no, I do not speak for UTAG. But what we know is that when it comes to the dealings and arrangements of UTAG, obviously it's the decision of NEC that rules. And then the decision of NEC obviously has to be the majority decision. So NEC is made up of, I think, 15 members. And for the 15 members, what you require is at least 8 of them to make a majority decision. And so it really does not matter if one dissents. Yes, you may have dissented during NEC meeting or during engagements at NEC, But at the end of the day, it is the majority decision that holds. It is even the more reason why you had UTAG, the neck of UTAG, apparently issuing a statement suspending their strike. Other than that, it would have been an individual decision that ought to be made by the institution. So far as the ministry is concerned, so far as government is concerned, all university teachers have suspended their strike. I mean, you can go to the universities, various universities.
And I get...
the disagreement may be there.
Right, and I get how confident you are about this, but what we're seeing on the ground appears to suggest otherwise. But one more thing, let me pick up on what the president says. He's assuring that the academic calendar will not be derailed. Negotiations will be done in such a manner to ensure what I spoke about. Given where we are now, the fact that we've gone 6 weeks past the whole finding a solution to this whole negotiation, does it not suggest that the academic calendar is already disrupted? And what plans are you putting in place to redress this situation?
Obviously, we cannot pretend that, I mean, certainly the academic calendar may have been distorted, because if you look at academic structure, they planned everything to happen within the year, and then you have almost 6 weeks of it being distorted. But I'm sure those consequential decisions that ought to be made has to be made by the academic councils of the various universities. Of course, I mean, if it gets to that stage that the ministry, we may have to be consulted, or we may have to make our voices heard, we will. But issues of what pertains relative to academic activities are solely made by the academic boards or the academic councils of the various universities, and I'm sure they are capable of making such decisions. But judging from precedents and what we've all witnessed in the past, usually lecturers double up their speed. A lot of times too, even they have to add weekend lectures. Sometimes with the hybrid system has been also adopted, and those are measures that have proven to work efficiently when time has been already been lost in terms of academic time. So I'm sure the various academic boards or the academic councils will make those consequential decisions.
Kwesi, your minister has come under scrutiny at this point. The belief is that it's not being effective as a minister in dealing with these matters. There are anxious parents out there wondering what exactly he's doing to contain this. What's your message to the parents who are out there who are worried about what's happening?
The thought, first of all, let me say that the thought of my minister, the education ministry, effective, first of all, is very erroneous and misinformed. This is a clear labor issue. And of course, I'm not suggesting that it means the labor minister is supposed to be ineffective, but all over the world, labor issues are inevitable. I am sure even within the premises of Joy, there are some outstanding issues that probably borders on employee-employment relations that probably are being settled. When those issues comes, it's about demonstration of leadership to resolve those issues. It has nothing to do with the inefficiency or the incapability of a leader. I think what is most important is that those issues are obviously, when they come here, unfortunately, a lot of people had engaged outside the framework of the law, and that government made it clear that we're not going to do that, and that position being the favor. That yes, we will negotiate with UTAG, and indeed we needed to negotiate with UTAG, but that should have done within the framework of the law.
All right, now.
And unfortunately, people are construing that to be that government did not make any offer, and for that matter, government is ineffective. It is very far from that.
Kwesi Kwarteng, I'm grateful. Dr. Beth Kusi will be wrapping up with you. But first, let me indicate that government is today holding talks in the Eastern region with stakeholders, various labor unions, not just UTAG, to try and address issues on the labor front. So let's get more from El Ankra, who speaks for the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. He is there at the events grounds himself. El, so what's the essence of this event today, and how would you describe the fallout from the event today? Well, El Ankra is down, but let's hear from Dr. Beth Kusi, who's still on with us. Doc, so here we are. You've heard from all the stakeholders. In fact, the Education Ministry says it's not as though they've not given you an offer. Why are you not accepting this offer from the ministry?
I don't think that he meant that an offer has been given to UTAG. Not at all. No offer has been made.
No offer has been made?
The point he sought to make was that they were committed to negotiating with UTAG within the context of the law. And once the industrial action was off, then they were ready to resume. I think in earlier, one of his statements, he indicated that at our first meeting, we officially tabled our demand. And that was where we ended. And we are going into negotiations on Wednesday. A letter has been issued to that effect. So long as we are concerned, there has not been an offer to the union.
This will be shocking if you say an offer has not been made to UTAG ever since you began negotiations with government.
No, within the context, remember that this is an industrial action which was called when there was no negotiation. And the government position has always been that suspend your strike and come, we are ready to negotiate, so that at the negotiation table, we can put an offer on the table. The strike action was suspended and we moved into our first negotiation meeting on Thursday last week. It was at this meeting that UTAG formally tabled all that it had trumpeted within the space and spoken about. So, I mean, to set the record straight, there has not been any offer yet. We're looking forward to what the government will, the employer will bring when we meet on Wednesday. So basically,
is this why you keep repeating the point that you do not trust government all throughout the negotiation process?
It is one of the reasons why our members are voting the way they are voting, because the thinking is that give it whatever name it is. At least they expected that the employer would have done something, brought an offer to the table, at least to assure leaders that we are ready to do X, Y. But I'm sure the labor aspects, Mr. Game is online. He will tell you that the government is also, or the employer is also being cautious. Was also being cautious because then they were afraid that, well, if they do that, then the strike will never end. And these things were discussed severally at the table. And so that is why as I said, NEC was of the view that let's give some overtures to the side of the employer and let's see officially what their counter proposal will be.
So as you go into that negotiation on Wednesday, what's your expectation in a minute?
Well, we are expecting that, as it has been re-echoed, they will come with all honesty and with all transparency. That is what we are looking for, so that we can be honest, fair to ourselves, and then look at exactly what the counter proposals are within the context as we all want it. And then we can also evaluate what has been proposed on its value and then make a decision.
Right. I guess you are all on the same page. Good faith is what you want. Thank you, Dr. Bert Kusi-Boadu, for joining us. El Ankra is with the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. In fact, he's in the Eastern region and has more for us. El, what's your impression of today's engagement? El Ankra, if you can hear me, I'm asking about the National Labour Conference, which is happening in the Eastern region. Your impression of day one, and what are you expecting as the outcome from today's engagement? El Ankra is off the lines again, but we need to thank you, gentlemen, for joining us here on The Pulse. There are more issues for us to deal with. In fact, minority in Parliament is asking the government of Ghana to scale up support for some Ghanaian students stranded at Sumy, one of the hotspots in Ukraine, as part of efforts to ensure safety of its citizens. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration yesterday disclosed that about over 460 students have been evacuated to neighboring countries, including Poland, Hungary, Romania, Slovakia, and then Czech Republic. The sector minister herself, Shelia Yakoboche, says the numbers are bound to increase in a few days from now. She's been giving updates on the land evacuation being carried out by the Ghanaian Foreign Mission in Switzerland and other parts of the country.
As at midday today, 27th of February, information gathered was that about over 460 students have left Ukraine en route to Poland, Hungary, Romania, Slovakia, and Czech Republic. The students will be received by officials of our diplomatic missions honorary consuls, and officials of the students' union or associations. We are pleased to provide the breakdown of those who have exited Ukraine as follows. 132 have arrived in Bucharest, Romania, and our officer on the ground is preparing tickets for some of them to leave tomorrow to Accra. Reason why I say some of them is because the distance between the holding area and the city itself is, I'm told, over 500 kilometers. Am I correct? And so some of them are on their way to the city. At the moment, he has with him 24 of them who are at the airport, and he's trying to get them on Qatar Airways to Accra. Some are being processed at the holding area, and I'm told about 60 of them are going through border formalities. So they're on the other side of the Ukraine border, going through border formalities to get into Romania. 38, having crossed into Poland, are with our officials. We are currently also making arrangements for those who are willing to be assisted to get on flights. 25 persons en route to Prague from Slovakia were assisted by the honorary consul and will be received on entry by the mission in Prague. 25 just this morning arrived in Hungary and are being sheltered at the Pentecostal Church in Budapest.
Well, so that's the Foreign Affairs Minister, Shirley Yokobuchi. Meanwhile, the ranking member on the Foreign Affairs Committee, Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, says a lot more needs to be done, and as information available to his office reveals that some persons are in Sumi as we speak who are stranded.
There is still a lot of work to be done. Our embassy officials do not appear to be physically present at the border crossing points to extend consular assistance, particularly in countries like Romania, Poland, Slovakia, and Hungary. The students seem to really go through a hell of a struggle, and then when they are assisted by the officials in those countries, that is either Romanian officials or Slovak officials or Hungarian officials, it is at that point that later on our officials go to meet them. This is what the students are telling me. And so I would want to appeal to the Foreign Ministry to ask our consular officials to be more up and doing. They should reach out to the officials who are manning those borders and have some bilateral arrangement with them. And some physical presence will help, because there are complaints of racism, the ordeal, the trauma that they go through as they struggle to cross the border points. I think that we can explore diplomatic channels to ease the burden on those who are crossing. So that's my first concern. The second concern I have is with those who are stranded.
Well, so that's Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa ranking on the Parliament's Foreign Affairs Committee. Joining us now via Zoom is Andy Amuzu, who is a former Nukes Ukraine Public Relations Officer, representative of the Nukes Ukraine evacuation team here in Ghana. They are coordinating all of the activities happening in Ukraine. Boateng Benjamin Kojo is Public Relations Officer for Nukes Ukraine. I'm grateful, gentlemen, that you're joining us now. So let me start off with you, Benjamin. What's the level of safety in terms of the reports you're gathering? What can you tell us about the safety of your colleagues there in Ukraine?
Well, good evening and thank you for having me. Well, if I'm to rate the level of safety in Sumi, in my city, I would say from 0 to 5%, we are 95% not safe and only 0 to 5% safe. And
what's that supposed to mean? Because we're getting indications from the government of Ghana that at least some evacuation is happening through the land borders. So how about that?
That's not true. I'm in my city, and then, of course, I'm the only national official in Tumi. There are no movement of buses, there are no movement of trains that have taken any single Ghanaian student in Tumi towards any border. At the moment, we are stranded. We have Russian troops that are at the outskirts of Sumi, and so people are not allowed to move. And so when we hear such information that people are moving, I'm part of my page. If the people are moving, they will tell me.
But at least we know of the official number 460 from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. At least they may not be in your area, but that could be still within Ukraine, right?
Yes, of course, that could be within Ukraine. But I mean, I'm talking about my city. That could be within Ukraine, 460. And again, even this number, I would say that it's an approximation. It's not definite.
Right.
So for my city, we are stranded. No single person has been moved by any single bus made by the government. That's not true.
That's a shocking revelation you're making there. But give us a picture of Suni itself and where it is in the wake of all this tension that's happening between Russia and Ukraine.
Well, Sumy is at the eastern part of Ukraine, and if you look at the map, you realize that Sumy shares a border with Russia. And so if we talk about invasion, you expect that it is very easy for Russian troops and soldiers to move from Russia into Sumy. And so we are one of the most attacked cities in the Russia-Ukrainian tension. And right now, you know, because of course the President Zelensky said that if you are 18 years and above and then you can defend your country, you come for weapons. So right now you would see clearly, I mean, my room yesterday night, I saw people who were trying to, you know, smoking and having guns, and you expect the kind of pain and, you know, the fright that happens. Right now, it is evident to every single Ghanaian student in Subi that you walk and sometimes you walk past people with guns. It's very easy. We see them. I mean, it's becoming normal to us. We've seen them over and over again. And we are talking about ladies who are just 18 to 24. Imagine a lady sees somebody with a gun. The first thing is to scream. So you can realize the pain and agony that people go through.
Right.
And of course, then when you hear a siren go for about 3 minutes, you know it's an emergency situation. Right. A lady who's running from the ninth floor downwards comes into the bunker after they say it's safe to go upstairs, the person goes up. Yeah. All this pain and agony is what we are going through. So
I can imagine how much of a trauma it is for you out there, students. But the government, I must indicate, has admitted difficulties in reaching Sumy. But what's the level of interaction between the foreign mission there or the Ministry of Foreign Affairs? We know that they've established some lines as well. Are you in talks with them, and are you still in touch with the Ghanaian officials?
Respectfully, we are in touch with them. No two ways about them. We keep talking to them, but the issue is that what has come to the table. You can talk to somebody, but you should be able to produce results. Talk alone doesn't end there. We are talking about 130 lives to move them out of the city, and then we talk about talks. It's really cost 90-0. So for communication, the communication is there, but the issue is what has come to the table, what has improved since the talks, and that is what we are looking for. So that's for talks we are, but really there has not been any improvement in terms of, number one, money that has been sent to us to be able to support ourselves. Money has not been sent by any governmental official. All monies that we have used are monies that Nukes Ukraine leadership themselves raising up to about $3,000. This money has been used by Nukes Ukraine leadership themselves to try and support us moving one way or the other. Money has not been sent by any governmental official to any Nukes Ukraine leadership. That's not true. Again, bars has not been sent by any governmental official, any honorary consular to any Ghanaian student in Nukes Ukraine. This Boating Benjamin, PR of Nukes Ukraine, is confirming now. So that is the situation we find ourselves.
You are on the grounds, and so you're able to give us a clear picture of what's happening within Sumy now. The ranking on the Foreign Affairs Committee, Samuel Kujitua Blacko, has confirmed, indicating the story that you're also putting out at this point. But what's on the ground? Is it the case that you can't move out entirely, or you will be able to move out once you have some facilitation from the Ghanaian mission there?
Well, right now we can't move out entirely because, like I said, you have Russian troops on your border, and so if you decide to move, you know that, I mean, it's tough. It's not safe outside. It's not safe outside.
So if, exactly the point. So if you can't move out, what's the guarantee then that you? I mean, it's possible for the foreign mission to come to your aid at this moment. Could it not be as a result of the difficulties in trying to negotiate a way through?
I believe that the foreign ministry has links and has communication with different countries. And so if we want to make a move, the foreign ministry should be able to communicate this information to this country and then establish what we call a bilateral relation, a bilateral communication. Maybe these people will agree, sit them down on the table, bring this out, and then we can move. Of course, it's grounded, but the foreign ministry should be able to bring something out.
Right.
If they are not able to bring something out, then we have to be looking at them and saying, why didn't you come for us earlier when you heard that other nationalities were taking their people out of the country? So in either way, the issue or the thing will be brought to the foreign ministry. You had the opportunity to do this last week of January. You didn't do it. Now we are in a dying situation, so you have to produce something now. There wouldn't be any time for any more excuses. You have to produce something.
What's your message to the Foreign Affairs Minister? She's obviously been giving updates on the evacuation. We're expecting the first March to arrive here in Ghana later tonight. But what's your message to her, really?
First and foremost, we Ghanaian students in Sumi are disappointed at the Foreign Ministry based on what has happened so far. Right from the last week of January up to now, we haven't received what we call support from the Foreign Ministry in terms of money to keep ourselves and also any evacuation measure. No. Things have been brought, but these are not feasible. So first and foremost, we are disappointed at what has happened. The second thing is that we want them to speak the truth in the media. If you have not sent any money to any student in Sumy or in any part of Ukraine, if you have not provided any pass for anybody to get evacuated or move from one part of the country to the other, please do not send this information into the media. Do not deceive our parents that efforts are being made when efforts are not being made. You would, of course, just before we came, you were playing a voice note of Honorable Ablakwa that said that even the honorary consuls that have been, their numbers have been given out to the media. These people are not present at the borders. So again, you can ascertain the amount of deception that is going around, that this is happening when we on the ground realize that absolutely nothing is happening. The last thing we want to tell them is that you were supposed to come for us, you didn't. And now we have got to this situation. The last resort that we are putting before you is to produce something. If you don't produce anything, then we can faithfully say that the government will not do anything about this situation. And we Ghanaian students need to do something to get ourselves out of this situation.
What are you likely to do? What are you considering?
Well, to keep fighting, as we can only keep hopes alive, to keep fighting, try to get passes on our own, as we have done. At least we have been able to move people from different cities to the borders. This was done by Nooks Ukraine leadership. And so we'll keep fighting, we'll keep checking, we will not give hopes on the people in Sumy. If others have, we just need to be positive and hope that as we keep checking, as we keep pushing, we will be able to get something, as we have done for other people in different cities.
Fingers crossed. We wish you the best. Boating Benjamin Kojo is the public relations officer for Nooks in Ukraine. Andy is also on with us. He's coordinating all of the activities from here. Andy, so you've heard from your colleagues there in Ukraine. Why is the evacuation process becoming a challenge? Don't you have proper records of your members, some of the people who are out there studying?
So we do have records. Now the problem is Russia is not just attacking one city at a time. Russia is attacking every single city in Ukraine at the same time. The problem is also that we had to organize buses, transportation for all these people to the borders. We didn't get information as fast as we could. So you have a situation where most of the Ukrainians driving these buses are scared. They don't know which routes are safe. So it's been a gamble from day one. And just like Benjamin said, it has just been Nooks Ukraine doing this job from the beginning. For the 450 the Foreign Affairs Minister spoke about yesterday, we actually organized buses for them and got them. We had to figure out which borders are safe.
I'm sorry, Andy, are you disputing the figures as well? The fact that some monies have been sent to Ghanaian students in Ukraine?
No government official has sent one cedi to any students in Ukraine. I can tell you for a fact that all the buses that were sent to carry Ghanaian students from their cities to the borders were self-financed by the union and the students. As Benjamin said, the union had 90,000 grievance in their coffers, which is around $30,000. And that is what we've been using. At the moment in Ukraine, a seat in a bus costs around $200. The students have been trying themselves, and the problem is that because of the war, ATMs are not working in most of the cities. So even the students themselves cannot access their own money. We have money to get them across. For 4 days now, we're working trying to get them across from all parts of Ukraine.
But the number we're receiving from the Foreign Affairs Ministry indicates that some 460 persons, in terms of evacuation, I mean, they've been moved safely. Government is hoping to increase the numbers and to bring some back home. So the people coming back home were not rescued by the Foreign Ministry? Is that your position?
With all due respect, if you bring people to come and stand behind the borders, waiting for students to manage and get themselves from Ukraine and cross the borders on their own, for you to now pick them and then say you are putting them on a plane to Ghana, that is not helping the students. I'm sorry, but that is the truth. It took NUC's executives, students on their own who were trying to flee this same war, and a couple of help from past students and past leaders like myself from Ukraine, and then NUC's Ghana and GOOK's Association to help these students cross over to the border. As I'm talking to you, the 460 they are saying have crossed to safety. Most of them are standing at the borders. They've not yet gotten inside these countries we are talking about. We are being told that tomorrow 35 students from Chenefsi are arriving in Ghana. Now, these people did not get across the border on their own. NUC's Ghana got them to the border and across. The government promised that they will be sending representatives to come and get our students from the border. The representatives are not there. The numbers that they gave that we could call for help, I am challenging you to call those numbers and see if anybody picks up those numbers. They are not picking the numbers. Our students are at the border. Some of them have to travel 20 hours without food and water to get to the border. Now, when they get to the border, some of them have to be there for 3 days before they get across the border. Government says they sent messages to these countries to help our people. They are not getting them across the border. If you stand behind the border and then when somebody is able to get in, you carry the person and say you are bringing the person to Ghana. So if there is money to carry people from those countries and bring them to Ghana, why can't we use some of that money to transport people from the places they are in Ukraine to the border?
Right, Andy, and what we know is that government is engaging parents tomorrow. Have you engaged the ministry itself as NUCs collectively raising all of these concerns that you're putting across right now?
Yesterday, some of the leaders were at the press conference. Myself, I was there. And we initially wanted to actually come question the government on some of these issues, but we're not given the chance. We got a chance to speak to one or two of their leaders, and they made promises to us that they were going to get things done. They said that we should understand that they are not going to be able to do this as fast as we wanted. That it's going to take time. We understand that it's a time of war, and things are not going to go as smoothly as possible.
Right. But so just for clarity purposes, what you mean to say is that even the first batch that will be arriving, as you're indicating tomorrow and not today, is fully sponsored by a group. When are they arriving? Because you have information on that.
Sir, as I talk to you, we don't know when they are arriving. When they got over the border, Ghana government got them and bought plane tickets and is bringing them to Ghana. But what I'm saying is that from Ukraine to the border and helping them cross the border has been the sole duty of NUC's Ukraine. That has been the sole duty of NUC's Ukraine. Government has not had a hand in it. They made promises that they will bring representatives to pick us up at the border. Imagine convincing someone's ward that suffer 20 hours, risky routes, get to the border, and then Ghana will be there to help you. And they get to the border and there is nobody there. Rather, the representatives are waiting behind the border that in case they cross, then they will help them from that point. You spoke to Ben about Sumi. We have been trying to get them to send money to Sumi because earlier on the ATMs were not working. Today we had confirmation ATMs are working. So help send money, get food for the SUMI students because they are stuck.
Right, and Andy, unfortunately, we don't have all of the time, but one more issue under contention now has got to do with the claims by Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa that some students were attacked in the process of the evacuation. Do you have any reports on that? Is that true? And what accounted for the incident that's been reported?
Well, because everybody is moving towards the border, we have instances where whilst the students are traveling, there's fighting on the street. They have to move to different routes. We have also instances where in Harcourt, for example, some of the students were going to board a train and then they started bombing. So some of them, most of the students have lost their documents because they are running and all of that. We have issues at the train stations where racism is going on while they are not allowing blacks join the trains to safety. We have at the borders too, they are tasing people, asking blacks.
So you are virtually confirming the attacks. That's what you mean to say.
Yes.
Your people are being attacked.
People at the borders. They are moving people to the back of the borders. They are not allowing people in. Those ones we can confirm.
Right. Andy, we'll still keep our eyes on that, but I'm grateful. Andy Amuzu is the former Nukes Ukraine PRO, giving us the very latest on the tension between Russia and Ukraine and how that's affecting Ghanaian students. This is The Pulse. When we return, we'll talk about fuel prices and transport fares. Stay with us. And welcome back to The Pulse. Now, as we enter March 2022, the Institute for Energy Security, IES, is projecting another rise in prices of diesel and petrol as well as LPG across the pumps already. We know that some commuters actually are worried about a 15% increase in transport fares, describing it as harsh. Now, transport unions earlier this month warned to increase transport fares if fuel prices remain the same. My colleague Mapito Sebedi has been interacting with some commuters and other drivers at the Obra Sports Yard here in Accra.
Increase of fuel prices and the economic hardships that the country is facing are some of the reasons that the Ghana Road Transport Coordinating Council has given for the 15% increase in transport fares. I am here at the Obra, Trotro and Taxi rank, where I'm going to talk to some passengers who will be greatly affected by this.
Realize the case, how things have increased, it affects we a lot because we transfer our goods and materials. Maybe right now we are coming from the north, so we just came, realized the case. We just realized that things increase all of a sudden. So the budget we made, everything has increased totally. And even we are stranded now. Now we are stranded. We don't know how things will go. You can see our load here.
And realize the case. We just came. The fare now is 9 cedis, but we used to board car from here 6 cedis, 50 pesos. So everything just changed. So we need to also just work it out so that things will calm down.
How often do you do this trip, going to the north? How often?
And that's our work. We are in Tutarazo. So this traveling and traveling. So it affects us a lot. When this fare is up, it affects us.
I'm from Alajo. I take car from Alajo, coming to Circle, going to police depot, police headquarters. You see, it's too high. It's too high for me. Because look at my children, because I want to pay and then pay myself. Yeah, so it's too high. Oh, the government is supposed to, you see, because the driver, they are complaining about the fuel. Because the fuel is too high. So you should look at the thing and the thing come down so that we too, we are okay. Because it's not easy. It's not easy. Everything, because food and everything go high. So it's not easy. Look at the way I'm sweating.
Now the price is high, and going to places now won't be easier. Yes. So it's not really helping. Yeah.
The drivers now but me think it's a 50%. Say it's good if it's good for the drivers, fine. If it's not good for them, because Sunday money my end there, baby I had it.
Yeah.
It's you know.
But what about you for the passenger, as a passenger?
As a passenger, we have to consider the drivers. Okay. Because almost said petrol they be almost chosu. And said they be almost not so much chosu, not so much 50%. I think it's cool with me.
Yeah.
There is an increment in the fuel. So definitely drivers are also going to, otherwise they will incur us, because vehicle owners are also waiting for their ends meet at the end of the day. So definitely they also have to increase the fares. And for me, I think it's normal because you have no choice. Yes. When you wake up in the morning, you have to go to your work and you have no choice to walk to your workplace. And my workplace is far. I work at Embassy Hotel. I cannot walk from Circle to Embassy Hotel. So definitely I have to. Yes, I have to bear with the cost. So is there anything you'd like to say to the government? Oh, for me, what I would say about this government, a lot. But me, the little thing is, they fail us. Totally, they fail us. Because looking at all the promises, reduction in fuel prices as they use in their campaign, nothing has happened. Always there's fuel increase. Although I don't own a vehicle, but whenever you pass by a fuel station, you always see some persuasives every day increment. So
I've also been speaking to some drivers, and this is what they had to say.
Me driver no dey. Enyo ma yon so ya be fa ni sa. O kan wan ka wo ka so wan ka se o. The government no be ya no be ye. Nti eyi we nyo ya be fa ni sa. Nti ya nemu.
So the passengers now, are they complaining because it started on Saturday? So the passengers, what are they saying?
Passengers in the trot off no kasa bataze for no bi anka sa.
I don't have a problem with that, but some of the drivers, they increase the price too much. Because we know that as a driver, they give us 15%. But some people, when you join the trot, yesterday like this, I'm traveling to Medina. From Osu to Medina, they take 6 cedi. 6 cedi, yeah. So I don't know whether...
Before then, how much was it?
I think that 4 cedi, 80 pesos. Okay. So I don't know the 15%, the calculation. Yeah. Because here our station, we are paying 4 cedi, 60 pesos. Yeah. I don't know that the price... there's nothing we can do because as for we belong to union. Yeah. So whatever the union can give, we don't have anything to say about it. Yeah. So that side, I don't have problem about my side. But sometimes they have to look inside for the passengers too. Because as for them, no pay. They too, they haven't increased their salary. Yeah. So now if you have 2 children that they are going to school, this morning you have to give them you have to increase their transportation. Yeah. So that one, they have to do something about it for the workers. Yeah. Yeah.
Because it started on Saturday. Today is Monday. What have the passengers been saying throughout the weekend?
As for here, the taxi, here the passenger, when they came, then they seized the damn board. They are not complaining. Okay. They are not complaining much. Because I think that they give the information early. Yeah, so since it's Saturday like this, as for we didn't take from the only today that we are starting taking this thing. Yeah.
From the Obra Churcher taxi rank, I am Mapito Sibidi reporting for JoyNews. Madina.
Mapito Severi there with the latest on the fuel hikes. We can now do some politics. The opposition National Democratic Congress has petitioned the Secretary General of the Commonwealth Secretariat over what it describes as gross violation of human rights of leading members of the National Democratic Congress. In view of this, the party says that the judiciary is being used by the current administration to intimidate and harass its members sharply, which contradicts the tenets of good governance. General Secretary of the NDC, Johnson Asiedu Nketia, cited amongst many others the ongoing court case against the party's chairperson, Samuel Ofosu Ampofo, and its ranking member on the Finance Committee, Kesela Tofos, and as evidence to back the claims of the party that its members are being targeted. He argues that the situation threatens the country's political stability and further erodes the country's democratic governance.
And so, apart from this, there's a case of Dr. Kisel Atufosin, who has been very persistent in calling government to account for financial malfeasance and making sure that if government does not account for its stewardship, then it will be difficult for the nation to contribute further resources by way of taxation to that government that has declared itself unaccountable to the citizens. From nowhere, charges have been trumped up and put on this honorable member, and is now, before the courts. If you take the case of media practitioners, Commonwealth believes in right to information, freedom of the media, and so on. Now, all the indications about media practice in Ghana is that media is being harassed and clamped down. You have a situation where in one swoop, more than 100 radio stations were closed down selectively, because it is the belief that these radio stations were not singing the praises of government. So, having stated this, the particulars of our appeal is this: that the actions of the government of Ghana create conditions that threaten Ghana's political stability and further erode our democratic values. It is very unfortunate that after riding on the high horse and banner of a human rights activist, President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has become a democratic despot who brooks no opposition. The petitioner believes that in line with the objectives of the Commonwealth of Nations and the Harare Declaration, it is appropriate that we address this petition to this honorable body. The persecutions, threats, and killings of supporters of members of NDC violate the values and objectives of the Commonwealth and will create conditions that will threaten and jeopardize the peace and security of Ghana. We humbly request that the Commonwealth of Nations, through your good offices, to 1. Closely follow the political and human rights situation in Ghana, since the promotion and protection of human rights, democracy, and fundamental freedoms is a core value of the Commonwealth. 2. Send a team to investigate the matters raised in particular, and send a team of lawyers, judges, and legal experts to assess the adequacy and quality of the justice being administered to members of the NDC who are facing criminal prosecutions. 3. Continue to engage with the government of Ghana and support and encourage their pursuit of accountability for the perpetrators of the Ayawaso West Wogon constituency by-election violence and the gruesome state-sponsored killings of 8 innocent Ghanaians during the 7th December 2020 general elections. Monitor the human rights situation in Ghana and the criminal persecution of members of the NDC. Engage with a broad range of actors, including government officials, political parties, representatives of civil society, to respect, promote, and protect human rights in Ghana, and call upon the government of Ghana to put a stop to these persecutions, harassments, threats, and killings of supporters and members of the National Democratic Congress. We haven't mentioned all of them, but this is just about the summary. We have had cause to complain about the harassment of lawyers who are perceived to have sympathies with NDC. They are dealt with according to different standards as lawyers who support other political party, particularly the ruling government, by the General Legal Council. And we think that in the coming days, we would be holding further press conferences and take other democratically but unspecified actions to ensure that there will be, rule of law in this our dear country.
Fix the Country campaigner Oliver Baka-Vomawo on Monday took on the current legal processes initiated against him. Now, he described the court as a sham that is being supervised by a kangaroo court. This happened when the case of treason felony filed against him came up for hearing at the Sherman District Court. His lawyers have asked the question about whether the court had the power to decide on the issues affecting his liberty. Even before an answer could be provided, the youth activist decided to speak. The magistrate ordered his removal from the court, resulting in spontaneous cheers from the teaming Fix the Country group members who had massed up today at the court.
He lifted his handcuffed hands as much as he could as the singing began when he was led into the Sherman District Court.
For your country, the nation demands your devotion, and the rest of the land to uphold it.
These lawyers, led by Justice Shemsai, first made an inquiry. They wanted to find out from the court whether it had jurisdiction to grant him any matter relating to his personal liberty. Even before the judge could respond to that particular inquiry, Mr. Baka-Vomawo took the opportunity to speak in open court. He responded by saying to the judge that we have not asked you for bail. At that point in time, the judge asked the lawyers to restrain him from speaking, and that if he has any concerns, he should let the lawyers speak for him. Mr. Baka-Vomawo replied, "We have not asked for bail. This is a kangaroo process. The bench has not covered itself in glory. I am not going to glorify a sham." At that point in time, he was whisked out of the courtroom by more than 4 police officers into a waiting van while proceedings continued.
Oliver, we love you. We stand by you. You are a hero.
Magistrate Eliano Boche ruled that the court has jurisdiction in terms of the indictment process that is currently before it, and so she asked the police prosecutors to speed up with investigations. The case was adjourned to March 15, 2022. Some of the Fix the Country members have been speaking to JoyNews.
Now I think Ghanaians are beginning to realize that Oliver is for Ghana, and whatever he said was for ordinary Ghanaian. And whatever intimidations Ghanaian government, I mean Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's government is doing possible to make sure that they would frustrate him, they would let him keep quiet, for him not to talk again, is getting vegan. All right, so we are going to make sure that we stand very strong and defend him in everything he's doing. But what we can say finally to all the people of this country is that the government and the people in office are doing everything possible to make sure that they keep the ordinary Ghanaian in the dark, and for whoever that rise up to enlighten the Ghanaian citizen, he will go through this. So Oliver is aware of everything that he is going through now. Today,
were you surprised he was removed from the court? He was trying to talk back to the judge, and he had to be removed. He must be frustrated. I mean, you've been interacting with him. What exactly is the issue?
Oliver is a lawyer. He understands the law. Okay, so whatever he said, I think he's in the best position to explain it.
Judge, grant in the bill. So I didn't know way up and down, harm. It is Oliver Kasetiawa. You have every right to talk. So when him say to me grant in the bill wa harm. Now what way up and down. So I went na ma Oliver ni buefu no. What the ya no ya na ma we wo fe na mbebu no obufu e wo man ni mu. Say most mo na mo ka say mbra na mo ni mo mbra. You should go according to the law. You shouldn't abuse the law. Exactly. Abuse Oliver human rights way.
The case is back in court on March 15, 2022. For JoyNews from the Sherman District Court, my name is Joseph Akable.
You are a hero.
Now, she was allegedly blackmailed into believing the only way she could get access to drugs for her condition was by having sex with her caregiver. Mariama Isifu lost her memory from a ghastly motor accident and was later diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Her dependence on psychotropic medications drove her into the hands of a mental health service provider who would take advantage of her. Mariama's story is just one of several quality right violations in mental health care captured in our latest Hotline documentary produced by my colleague Manuel Krante. Here are excerpts.
As I leave the Upper West region, I head for its eastern counterpart, some 120 miles away. In a town called Bongo, I have come to meet another mental health patient, Mariama Isifu.
He's a schoolboy.
She too a trained teacher. But unlike Ernest, whose condition might have arisen because of his use of narcotics, Mariama was involved in a motor accident which almost claimed her life. As doctors managed to save her, Mariama's brain suffered a major blow, making her lose her memory. And that was the beginning of her own troubles.
After the accident, I lost my memory. It took time before I started gaining my memory, and then the headaches and sleepless nights. Sometimes I can be there throughout the day and night. I can't sleep for several days or weeks.
Soon, Mariama was not only battling memory loss, she was diagnosed with a bipolar disorder, making her hugely dependent on medications. Mariama's experience in going through that phase of her life exposed another troubling feature of Ghana's mental health delivery system: sexual abuse.
And I went on a visit to a friend at China. There I met a mental health service provider, and we spoke, and he agreed that I could be coming there for every month for healthcare until he was transferred to Bongo Hospital. I followed him there to the Bongo Hospital. There it all started. Then he started sexually harassing me. He will come and he demands sex, to have sex with me. Sometimes, many times when I go to Bongo, as at then he was there at the Bongo District Hospital. When I get there, then you tell me it's at his quarters. I should come there. It got to a point that it looked like it's like if I don't give in to his demands, I can't get drugs.
These sexual encounters were rough and as frequent as she needed her medications. Someone entrusted with the duty of protecting her was now abusing her. All of this should not have happened to Mariama. As a female, she is entitled to the Mental Health Care Quality Rights. Section 64 of the Mental Health Act details treatment of vulnerable patients like females should go. Sexual blackmail and extortion of patients by caregivers is criminal and goes against the professional code of ethics. At some point, Mariama tells me she could not continue giving in to the demands of the service provider, so she quit.
I can get so depressed as a day. I can get so depressed that to the extent of me even getting up to brush my teeth is even a problem, let alone walking out of the room.
People suffering from mental health disorders and other related conditions are predisposed to depression. This is mainly because of their tendencies to withdraw completely from everyone else and keep to themselves. Without deliberate attempts to reach out to them in their world and offer help and support, they risk moving from bad to worse. And that is why the World Health Organization is heavy on quality rights in mental health care delivery. Here's the head of the World Health Organization's Quality Rights Initiative in Ghana.
So we realized that human rights violations and poor quality of care and support for people with mental health conditions, which includes psychosocial and intellectual disabilities, has been well documented in reports such as the Human Rights Watch and several others. And these violations are actually occurring in mental health services, in faith-based settings such as the prayer camps and such, and generally in communities. And so based on this premise, and in response to these growing concerns, the WHO developed the Quality Rights Initiative.
Well, very touching stories there. Excerpts of our latest Hotline documentary, Mind Matters. The full documentary airs later this evening at 8:30 p.m. on the JoyNews channel. We'll return with sports news.
We know that as an update, Poland, Sweden, and Czech Republic are saying that they will not play at all if Russia are involved. So please confirm to me, what Poland wants is for Russia to be taken out or expelled from World Cup qualifiers. Is that true?
Yes, it's true. Poland said that we are not going to play against Russia in World Cup playoffs. Our football association didn't demand the exact solution of FIFA. They just said that in the current situation it's impossible to play against Russia, which of course means that Russia must be ruled out, must be kicked out from World Cup playoffs. And there are now FIFA should search for a new solution. So the first solution is that Poland will go through directly to the World Cup finals, to the World Cup playoff finals, of course, and to play against Sweden or Czech Republic. And the other solution is that Poland will play against other teams in playoffs, most likely against Hungary or Slovakia, because Hungary, they were third in the League of Nations ranking, and Slovakia were third in the same group with Russia. So one of these teams could replace Russia in World Cup playoffs, and the other solution is that Poland will simply go through to the final, to playoff finals without playing against Russia. And now there's a big international pressure on FIFA from various European associations that demand Russia to be suspended as a FIFA and UEFA member, and these other also associations don't want to play against Russia.
Okay, now I know that this is the reaction of the Football Association, but if you look at Polish people, do they agree with the Football Association's decision so far?
Definitely, Polish Football Association has now a big support from Polish supporters. I think that in recent years, Polish FA didn't have as good image as has it now, and because in Poland there's now a huge support for Ukraine, which and for their who fight to save their country. Almost all the people are now united in their support for Ukraine, and that they don't agree with, and they don't accept the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and so in Poland now nobody wants to play against Russia, and this decision of Football Association was commonly expected. Later, when on Thursday, in the first day of Russian invasion, when our association only demanded changing the venue of the game, it was a big disappointment for us. Fans and journalists expressed their anger in social media and criticized Polish Football Association that they are too soft. That they should demand expelling Russia from FIFA instead of just changing the venue of the game. And we know that it was mainly, and we were also very disappointed that in the statement of Polish FA, the war in Ukraine was named a conflict between Russia and Ukraine, which is unacceptable because it's not a conflict, it's invasion of one country to another. So,
sure.
But it was the influence of apparently it was the influence of Czech Republic association. They didn't want they wanted to use very diplomatic language, this statement, and they refused that they would not agree for a statement with containing other words which are in fact more proper in this situation. And finally,
I have to ask you though.
The statement of this free association and Polish FA was heavily criticized by fans, by media, and on Saturday morning, Polish FA announced that they are not going to play against Russia, which was approved, and even more than approved. It was by Polish supporters. Everybody now agrees that Poland should
so
not.
now I have to ask you, Maciej, is Poland ready to risk a World Cup spot potentially because of this?
Yes, they are ready to this, but I'm pretty sure that it's not going to happen. The pressure on FIFA will be so huge that I'm sure that finally FIFA will exclude Russia from World Cup playoffs. I can't imagine that Russia will qualify to the World Cup without playing one single game because other opponents refuse to play against it. I'm sure that FIFA will finally make a decision that Russia is excluded from playoffs. So I don't think that there is a risk for Poland that our team will not take part in World Cup playoffs. It's just the question how this issue will be solved, against which team will play. But I'm sure that Poland will not lose in this situation.
Nice. Okay. Thank you so much for the update. And it's going to be an interesting few weeks because the game is in just about 3 weeks from now, isn't it? Maciej?
Definitely.
Yes, the game is in just about 3 weeks from now.
Well, and that's all we have for you in this package of the polls here on the Joy News channel. Don't forget to be on the lookout for the Ghana month. We are all excited about that. Until then, log on to myjoyonline.com. Get updates on all of our running stories there. And that will be all for the show. My name is Blessed Suga.